It's such an honour to be here in Rochdale, the birthplace of our cooperative movement. I'm Jo Platt. I'm a proud cooperative member. I'm also a member of the Greater Manchester Commission, the Cooperative Commission. It was a commission that was set about to ensure that Greater Manchester is at the heart of cooperative development. From social enterprises to large organisations here and overseas, the cooperative movement really does make a difference. And as a former MP, I know more than anyone how hard it is to regain trust in our communities. But what I find is that the cooperative movement can do that. Just look at the recent events this year. The cooperative movement came to the forefront to ensure that our communities were protected, especially within the recent pandemic. And also they have a future in an unsure, uncertain economic landscape. No one has championed the cooperative movement more than our next speaker, and I would like to congratulate him on his appointment as our NEC chair. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our new NEC chair, Jim McMahon.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you for all that you do for the co-op movement more generally. It's been a real pleasure to have you here in Rochdale today. Firstly, can I thank the volunteers here at the Rochdale Pioneer Museum. They've hosted the speech today, and it's really great to be here at the birthplace of the modern cooperative movement. It's really fitting. This museum tells the story of early pioneers, what drove working people to come together, and importantly, what they achieved when they did work together. That's important history, not just because it's our foundation, but also it's our guide to face the challenges of today. I want to pay tribute to the work of our last Co-op NEC committer, many of whom have dedicated years of service to the party and to our wider movement. People like Gareth Thomas, Alan Michael, Jean Nunn Price and Jim Lee, all of whom have given so much to our party. As a party and an NEC, we were shocked at the passing of our last chair, Chris Harris. Chris was a true cooperator. She was fantastic to learn from, she was honest and she was formidable, and I hope I go some way to achieving what she achieved in the time that she had. I also want to thank our staff team who worked tirelessly for making sure that we can keep connected in these difficult times. And to all of our society members, the trade union movement, elected members at every level of government for making that cooperative difference on the ground to so many people right across this country. Cooperators, across the United Kingdom, our country has rarely been so fragile, our foundation so weakened, and the threat to livelihood and life so great. What we have experienced is one of profound worry. 42,000 loved ones lost to coronavirus, millions isolated, our public services hollowed out after a decade of austerity, now struggling under the burden. But as always, they rise to the challenge to keep us safe. And of course, we're now on course for one of the worst recessions in Europe. The truth is, for millions of people, things will get much worse. And it's in this context that our movement has never been so important. Things cannot go back to business as usual, and nor should they. Even before our country was hit by coronavirus and the Conservative government's incompetence laid bare, this country did not work for working people. Life expectancy was getting worse, not better. Child poverty was increasing, undoing a generation of improvement. And the British contract of a fair day's pay for a fair day's work has been broken. Too many of us do all that's asked. We roll our sleeves up, we put in the hours, and we work hard to build a better life. But when it comes to payday, the harsh reality repeats, week after week and month after month. Our country has rarely felt so fragmented, our economy so broken, with the wealth that we generate too often extracted, leaving us poorer and fighting for a scarce resource. We see that in public services, in housing, and the way that we invest in our young and take care of the old. We are a shadow of the nation we aspire to be. The Co-op Party has a really important role to play, and I want us to lead in that call to action. Our movement was born for a drive for better, addressing real problems affecting working people's lives and cooperating to bring in change, not through protest alone, but through action. Before we existed as a political organisation and movement, societies were forming right around the country, and it was here, Toad Lane in Rochdale, where the Society of Equitable Pioneers was formed in 1844. As the impact of the Industrial Revolution was forcing more and more people into poverty, they recognised action was important. But taking action simply to mitigate a system that doesn't work wasn't enough then, and it's not good enough today either. Where short-term private interest trumps our collective success, where the rules are made and defended by those for whom the system does work, and working people are seen simply as a means to an end and not as the wealth creators, but more as a burden to reduce. And that's why the Co-operative Party was born, and it's why we're needed now more than ever before. In our 103-year history, we have carried the weight of the ambition of working people, the work ethic of hard graft, of fairness, and a country where we look out for each other and where we get on together. After a bruising general election in which we lost too many cooperators from Parliament, we now have the prospect of a Labour government in 2024, coming out of the shadows with a party under new leadership, with Keir Starmer not just leading our sister party, but leading our nation as the Conservatives buckle under the pressure and are bogged down by incompetence. And it's vital that we come out of the shadows, for as long as we stay in the dark, our country will too. When I think back to our conference last year in Glasgow, we heard many inspiring examples of cooperation making a real difference on the ground across this country, benefiting millions of people. And we'll hear similar examples again in our virtual conference this year. As Keir addressed that conference, he said, "For too long, too many decisions have been taken by too few, and too much power is held back from working people. As a cooperator, Keir understands this completely. And this is where we'll build from as sisters parties together, building that enduring relationship for our mutual collective benefit. And so if, like me, you look to the future, our answers must address the questions of tomorrow as well as rising to the challenges of today. COVID-19 has exposed the widening inequalities across the UK. Deaths in the most deprived areas have been more than doubled those in the least deprived. This inequality is a symptom of narrow ownership of our economy, wealth and power concentrated in the hands of too few, where decisions are made in short-term interest and not in the wider benefit of workers, consumers, communities or the climate. We know our values and principles contain the answer to this inequality. We have seen the values bind communities together in developing the self-help and mutual support to get through some of the toughest challenges our nation has faced. Cooperative businesses are resilient and have a far better chance of surviving their first years of trading. If we believe in radical change, we must see this as a generational mission. Over the last year, it's been cooperators at every level leading the party, and we've had our best 12 months in terms of recruitment. We now stand at 12,000 members, but of course our ambition is for many more. We have grown our supporter list now to around 60,000 people who regularly engage with the work that our movement does and our party brings forward. And we have attracted tens of thousands of people campaigning on fair trade, fair tax, key workers, food justice and free school meals, to name but a few. We have worked together to move our party online, meeting online, campaigning online and providing new content on Zoom and other platforms, growing our party and our movement and our base, and that's resulted in more activity. We now have 9 Labour and Co-op representatives on the Shadow Cabinet, the most we've ever had, including the Shadow Chancellor and both the leader and the deputy leader of the Labour Party are cooperative party members, ensuring that we have a strong voice of cooperation around that decision-making table. We are seeing its Labour and Co-op members in power making a difference in the lives of millions of people across our country. Our councillors, police and crime commissioners, members of the London Assembly, our metro mayors and those serving our movements in devolved parliaments both in Scotland and in Wales. And let's not forget the members of the movement and the activists making a real difference across the country, and I want to give particular mention to our members in Northern Ireland too. But we must be confident in our own voice. While we must work hard to deliver a Labour and Co-op government in 2024, the real test will be actually when we reach our centenary as sister parties in 2027. You know, with a radical plan for the future, through the work of tens of thousands of members across our two parties, I can see it, and the vision sets out for me is absolutely clear. And Keir says this: the best country to grow up in, the best country to grow old in. And with that, we would have had 3 years of Labour in government. And so the test of a true relationship of equal must answer this question: what's been done for the cooperative movement to expand, to strengthen and to reset our broken economy? When the country responded to taking back control, in truth, they didn't believe they ever had the power in the first place, but they were absolutely certain that things had to change. The Tories heard the message, but they didn't understand how to deliver on it. You can't expect Boris Johnson to understand the value of hard work when he has spent his whole life work shy and unreliable. You can't expect Jacob Rees-Mogg to understand the value of collective endeavour when his biggest worry is which tax haven to funnel his vast fortune into. And you can't expect Rishi Sunak to either. When the best that's on offer is a half-price pizza, when the country faces one of the worst recessions, it's just not good enough, and we can't wait though. We cannot wait for the Tories to fail. They've been doing that for a decade, but we are still stood in the shadows. We can't expect people just to follow. We've got to meet people where they are. What matters is don't just we tell people what we'll do for them, producing a very long list of promises which in the end don't speak to the underlying desire to reset power in this country. Our message must be that we will own the future together. When everyday people come together, there's little that we can't achieve. But the system can't continue to be stacked against us. It's our job as a political arm of the movement to change the system, and we can do it, and you'll hear examples on the ground. Conference, have a wonderful time and continue to be cooperators.